Hey, what's up? It's Phoenix, and welcome to my channel. I'm super stoked because today I'm going to talk about something I'd been thinking about for a while, this idea of ideological boundaries, which I had heard described as this idea that there is a way in which human thought, human creativity exists around certain ideas or ideological expressions or beliefs, and that tremendously impact the way in which we live and the way in which we think, the way in which we do art, the way in which we relate to other people, the things in which we believe. And the reason why I think this is an important question is because I've had to acknowledge something lately that I think has been super difficult, which is the idea that there is definitely ideological boundaries around most, if not all, of what we do, and how that can be a very difficult thing to try to grasp and understand. And so I definitely don't want to make my thinking too specific, too black and white, too particular, too limiting, because if anything, I don't want to have ideological boundaries. But I've been struggling because I've realized that there is a way in which there are a lot of ideas that do exist as boundaries. There's also a lot of features in the world, such as the physical world or our biology, or the various things that keep us all contained and corralled, that definitely exist and that are definitely there, and that definitely make us feel safer. So ideological boundaries in this way exist everywhere. A simple example that I could use is the example that we want to stay alive. So death is an ideological boundary. The desire for life is an ideological boundary. And even though this can be transgressed in a lot of ways, it's a very strange thing to think about how these boundaries influence so much of our lives. We don't think certain things, we don't do certain things, we don't act in certain ways because of this reality of death. Another example would be culture and society, such as social norms, and I think very specifically of the idea of specific social norms surrounding laws. And so obviously, and not that this is a bad thing necessarily, we don't do certain things because we recognize that we want to follow the law. And I think in this case, ideological boundaries are very necessary because you hope that the law moves more and more towards justice and that we continue to live more justly as people and that we hopefully are able to make better decisions through our actions. But it's super interesting to me to think about these things because I recognize that the boundaries are definitely there. And I call them ideological boundaries because they exist in a variety of ways, including in politics, including in religion, including in society and culture, and definitely a lot of ways that we might not expect, that are always there. And yet, even though I'm making this statement that ideological boundaries exist everywhere, because they definitely do, they exist in a variety of ways that are supposed to keep us alive or to keep us functioning in society, there is a way in which I actually wish that it was possible to explore the world and to explore our minds without ideological boundaries. And that, I think, hits it on the nail on the head of what I've really been trying to do, which is I've hoped that I can find a way to avoid so much of the ideologies that we internalize without even being aware of. And how difficult it can be to actually thinking in a way that is more honest, I believe, in a way that is more thoughtful, in a way that is more creative, in a way that hopefully gives us freedom to be able to think about things in a way that we might normally not be able to. And this doesn't have to be something threatening. It doesn't have to be threatening to the boundaries that we put up for ourselves, ideological or otherwise, in order to protect ourselves. Instead, it could be very positive virtues and very positive values of creativity, of compassion, of empathy and love, of beauty, of life, and of the affirmation of life. And I think that's where it's incredibly powerful to keep in mind that this is something that we can have if we're able to let go of some of our normal ideological boundaries that we put in place. And the reason why I think this is so incredibly important is because I have been thinking about my art and I've been thinking about what I try to present. And I've been thinking about how I know that it's not possible for me to exist without ideological boundaries because I exist in my body, I exist in my community, I exist in my society, I exist in the physical world, in the physical universe. I exist with all of the biological and environmental constraints that exist. But what I hope for is that I can step outside of that. And I know that my art will never be completely without the kind of boundaries that I'm describing because of the fact that they are always there. Because they are. They're going to be there whether I like it or not. That's why I don't like extreme art. That's why I don't like extreme music, because I often feel like the message is too overt and it's too particular what it's trying to convey. And I think even though sometimes that can be useful for confronting reality and confronting the unknown, I think it can sometimes become a problem and can sometimes prevent us from seeing things as they really are. And so I definitely have been thinking about this because I would like my art to be free of ideological boundaries and boundaries in general. Obviously, I would like to fit in some deep, very deep morality because I care about people and because I care about doing the right thing, and I care about being happy and helping myself flourish and helping other people flourish and be happy. I care about other people and I care about the world. And so obviously I want a responsible morality. It's not an anarchy. It's not an anything goes. It's not a nihilism. But I think it's so easy to be afraid of life without ideological boundaries or boundaries in any other sense because we think about how we have to survive. But I guess what I want to do is just push that a little bit further and try to imagine it in a different light. Try to imagine it in a different place. Try to imagine a different thing or a different idea, a philosophy that you haven't considered before, or understanding a poem that you haven't necessarily read before, or understanding the use of language and how powerful that can be for helping us understand more and more what's going on in this deep sense of this world that we live in, which hopefully in a very deep sense can live or can exist without boundaries and can therefore free us. And I really think they're powerful ideas, and I hope to live without ideological boundaries in my art and in my life and live that out. And my reasons are for the reasons I've mentioned, and also definitely because I want there to be depth and exploration and all of these other wonderful values I've described. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I'm Phoenix. Thank you for watching. I hope you will check out my other videos. I hope you'll check out my books. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.